Well, hi, friends. It's Romania Black, and we are on episode 3 of Gunbuster. And after this episode, we'll be halfway through the series. As I'm recording this, the Patreon poll that I have put out there is telling me that y'all do not want me to watch Die Buster or the movie yet, which is fine. That's fine. I can always save those for another time. So it looks like we might just be watching the 6 episodes of this series and then moving on to something else, which is fine. I'm totally okay with that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I've got some comments from the first episode of Gunbuster on Patreon that I think we need to get into before we start this episode, which it's crazy to think that after this we'll be halfway through the series. It's crazy to think that, right? So, HBanana7 said, did anyone mention to you that this is directed by Ano Hideaki? Nope! I put it on Discord and they were like, so you finally found out. Oh my God. So 1988, right? This came out in 1988. Neon Genesis Evangelion was, let me get this right. Evangelion, the series itself started in 1995. So a good solid 7 years before Neon Genesis graced the stage, Ano was helping out with this series. Okay. Well, now that makes a lot more sense, especially with the monster and some of the things that I've seen so far in this series. I was like, that feels so Neon Genesis, or it feels like a referential. This was basically like a prototype for a lot of things that we would see in Neon Genesis, which makes much more sense now. Now, granted, this is directed by Ano, not necessarily created by him. So Ano just gets some stage direction, which is still terrifying in itself in the best way possible. But yeah, that is good to know moving forward. Good to know. HBanana7 also says, I'm hot and bothered by that coach. Especially the swag as he stood with his walking stick. I mean, yes. But yeah, he is not emotionally available. He might be emotionally stunted. What is he doing in an Ano Hideaki show? And that was like, oh my God. Yeah, no, things are checking out in more ways than one. All we need to make sure is that the storyline with the dad and Noriko doesn't go the same route as Shinji and his mom. Let's just hope we don't get that kind of comparison, but we'll see where that goes, right? But I'm glad that somebody has told me this. I know this now that we're at the halfway point. Lyndon says for episode 1, there actually wasn't any product placement here, just straight up trademark infringement, because these are OVAs. They had to be special ordered and were mailed directly to people on videotape. They were never aired on television, which means they could get away with pretty much anything they wanted. Okay, so this did not air on TV. That makes much more sense as well, because I was like, after episode 2 with the bath scene, I was like, when did this air on television? It didn't. You bought it on VHS. Okay, if you don't know what a VHS is, I feel old and you should go look it up. But yeah. Wow, okay. So, yeah, well, that explains why a lot of the content that's mature got away with it, because they didn't have TV censors to worry about. That all checks out. Cool. I kind of like that too, because if we're going by Ano being a part of it, it means that there probably was a lot more creative freedom as to what you could do, because you didn't have to worry about TV censors. It was all going out to a mass audience on VHS anyway, so curiouser and curiouser. And then Lyndon also said the title is a parody for Aim for the Ace with Aim for the Top, which I think you've seen, but I haven't. I don't think I've seen that one. The original song, While She's Running, is a parody of the theme from Chariots of Fire, but they had to change it for the US release because they were worried about getting sued for copyright. But they didn't cross out the Pepsi, so, Pepsi probably doesn't care if they have product placement. They were like, go for it. I'm sure there are hundreds of other sports, anime, and movie jokes I missed because I don't really watch those. The fact that this is an OVA series and the fact that it's done by Ano has opened so many doors. So many doors. I'm like, yes, we have so much we can do with this, but that's really fun to know. Nicholas over on Discord was saying that Gunbuster came with PSA-style shorts that talk about specifics of the universe. I believe they are paired with each episode. I'd not be surprised if they were included in the Blu-ray release. I don't recall how spoilery they are, but are like, here's a topic to cover that was raised in the episode. They're called science lessons. Now, the moderator for this series, Sunspots, thank you, Sunspots. Sunspots has already said that they are going to get these ready for me. So my hope is that when I watch episode 6, I can do the PSA spoiler reaction alongside episode 6. That's my hope. We'll see if that happens or not, but that's my goal. So thank you, Sunspots, for getting that ready for me. And thank you, Nicholas, for pointing that out. I'm super excited about those. And then finally, there was a comment about episode 1 from I Hate Piano that says, Toshio Otaking Okada, who launched this project, once said about the unrealistic outfits on the cover, the costume is a message that this is a work for otaku, so those who find it offensive might not want to watch it. In any case, just ignore the parts you find offensive and have fun. Now, look, I told them, I was like, my intention is I'm having a lot of fun with this series, but you all know this channel. You know what you sign up for when you get a Romania Black discussion and reaction. If there's parts that are offensive or dated or need to be talked about that might be problematic or anything, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to be 100 and tell you all what I think about it, but it's okay. I feel sometimes as if there's a fandom culture right now that if you don't like something 100%, you're not like a true fan or whatever. I'm like, as an English teacher, our job is to analyze literature and to point out the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it's okay to love something, but also recognize how flawed it is. I'm a Bleach fan. I know that. Oh God, whenever I get the final announcement for the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, when I figure out when it's going to air the final arc and I can start planning, watching, leading up to it, it's on. It's so on. But yeah, oh my God. I'm like, I have watched many a series that I have loved, but have also recognized its flaws. But I don't like reactors who, and I don't want to name any specifically, but I've been given recommendations to some reactors before, and I would watch their stuff, but everything was all like, that was the most amazing thing ever, and I've never seen anything better like it, and there was nothing wrong with it. And I was like, well, that one part. So, and there's many shows on this channel that I love so much, 100%, so I don't want to be pot calling the kettle black, but you all know, if there's something that stands out that I'm like, that's weird, then I'm going to point it out. I'm not just going to ignore it. Silence is complicity, and girl is not a complacent girl. So anyway, I'm super excited to see what goes down this episode. I can't believe we are halfway through after this episode. That is wild to me. But I want to thank you all so much for the kind words and the comments. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in this 3rd episode. We're halfway through. So after this episode, we're going to be at the halfway point. Come on, Gunbuster. What you got cooking for us? Because last episode was crazy. And I'm ready to see what we get. So we are going to start Gunbuster episode 3. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. We're not messing around. Oh my God! What? So the space monsters incubate their eggs in the suns. All right. And Smith is dead. All right. And Amano has distanced herself from Noriko for obvious reasons. All right. And the coach is like, everything's fine. All right. And oh, okay. Well, I need to get that out of my system. White Raccoon's just here for the speech at the beginning. Because, oh my God, I'm glad that I know about Ano being the director of this, going into this opening 1.5 minute credit sequence, because that all checks out. That all checks out. So if you don't know, when I went back and did my, way back in the past, did my Neon Genesis Evangelion reactions and discussions, I noticed that Ano likes to do a thing and I've seen it happen in other animes since watching Neon Genesis, and I always think that Neon Genesis is the originator, but it might be this. This may be the originator of it happening. I've not seen it elsewhere except for in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but in that one, you essentially have a dialogue happening on screen or off screen, but while the dialogue is happening and you're trying to pay attention to it, there's other text happening at the same time. Revolutionary Girl Utena did that. Neon Genesis did that. I'm assuming they all drew inspiration from this. Wild times. What the fudge? So, for all you good folks, the story thus far. And so we're going to break this down bit by bit because this opening sequence was wild. It felt like the Star Wars crawl of like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away is what it reminded me of at first. And I like chuckled, and then it just started to go off the rails. And I was like, oh, like the room started spinning. So yes, we finally come to the best part of Excelion's launch party. And so we're going to say, here's the man we've all been waiting for, Coach Oda. So meanwhile, in one corner over here, we have Coach Oda. And here we have, with regards to the similarities between quantum mechanical operations of functional mathematics and partition functions of statistical physics, a quantum mechanical operation works roughly as follows. And then there's a sequence there. So basically we're starting out with Amano's physics paper, right? In a duet with the Rose Queen herself, Kazumi Amano. So he's in a duet with the Rose Queen, Amano, while all this is being illustrated at the party. Okay. If we assume the equation above is to be a fully comprehensive summary, then treating as canon both the expressions of the Weinberg-Salem theory that effectively unifies the forces of electromagnetism and weak interaction, they'll be singing Our Game of Love, which just hints at an immoral love. Oh my God! Just hints at an immoral love called our, quote unquote, Our Game of Love. Now, based on the conversation we have in this episode, are we to believe that Amano and the coach might be in an immoral love, and that's just hinting at it? Perhaps. But okay, so we're up at the top, we're talking about electromagnetism and weak interaction, right? So then, from there, and now without further ado, we start the song. It says, following the gaze theories, first proposed by Wall and later expanded upon by Yang and Mills, and quantum chromodynamics that encompass the field of strong interaction, we can safely claim that this equation is a regular one. It says, and this is embarrassing, such a lovely couple. What a hot pair. I'm so jealous. So are Amano and the coach together? Is that just a suspect? Because Noriko doesn't seem to think that Amano is with anyone, and that's why she's kind of like, well, that's just me wanting to ship her. She doesn't actually like her. She just views her as her big sis, and she wants to work with her because they're a team. To use a well-known example, the phrase transition region of roughly 10 to the 15th GeV is a classical action integral which does not even cause alterations to a material's hierarchical structure and includes the dynamic variable of pi. What's funny is we're looking at Amano's like physics paper that is talking about things I cannot fathom right now. Meanwhile, in reality, she's singing a love duet with the coach and nobody is caring about her intelligence on the matter. So then quiet down now. And then he starts singing, there was far too much wine, you know. I blame it all on you. However, several irregularly recurring problems of elementary particle physics left unresolved at the end of the last century, such as superstring theory, the issue of unitary abnormalities in the supersymmetric Hilbert spaces, and the question of what a regular representation of such local spaces would be, remain unresolved, as they have been rendered largely irrelevant. And then as he's saying, can't hold your drink. Now, how might that be my fault? Coach, smile. I had to order, blame it all on you. According to the Tannhauser first paper, The Ether Dynamics of Objects in Motion in Pacific Science 1995, ether is the equivalent of a particle in a Higgs field as defined in the WS theory, and vacuum is defined as its ground state. You could have left, yet you chose to stay with me. Take me in your arms. I love we're having this romance song juxtaposed against Amano's physics paper. Particles with zero or integer spin obey Bose-Einstein statistics, while particles with half-integer spins obey the Fermi-Dirac statistics. The Planck constant and gravitational constant are determined when the higher dimension spaces undergo phase separation to the nth dimension due to spontaneous symmetry breaking. I don't know what I'm reading to you all. In my arms, I'll hold you back, wishing to never go back. Okay. Whiskey straight up, chance encounters, and lingering regret. The Planck constant and gravitational constant are determined when the higher dimensional space undergoes phase separation to the nth degree due to spontaneous symmetry breaking. And then it says, when we require a causation for the complex numerical expansion that takes place in scattering process expressed in terms of scattering amplitude, what we get is an analytical function on the complex plane. That's the game of love between a man and a woman. Okay, by applying the Cauchy integral theorem to this, we get a set formula that we can call the Tannhauser distribution equation. An excerpt from the notes of Kazumi Amano at the National Japanese High School Physics Speech Competition 2021. Wow! And that's the story thus far. Woo! So basically, it's getting this idea of there is all of this intelligent, complex dynamics within physics and space that many of us struggle to even comprehend. And then at the same time, something else that is infinitely hard to comprehend is the love between a man and woman. I just love the idea that Amano is writing about these complex physics structures that I have no freaking clue about, nor how they can even begin to break them down. But simultaneously, she's stuck singing a song with the coach about the game of love and how simple it seems, but how complex it is as well. It's just, that was incredible. I love that so much. Yes, please. All right. So, and even though P is kind of romantic in its nature, right? Okay. So, funny that we get that because this is the first sortie, first love. So, I'm assuming the sortie is them facing off against the aliens, right? The space monsters. Maybe. So, we start out with Noriko going back and talking to Kimiko, who's in this little apartment, like little complex there. I thought at first that this was as gratuitous as we were going to get, and I was going to be like, okay, it's just her sleeping with her pillow. It's fine. Your best friend here is out among the stars. So, we get the Star Wars-esque, battleship side by side. She's like, the sun is now so small and just another part of the Milky Way. Would you believe that a spaceship rocks? Ooh. So, she meant by rocks, like literally rock back and forth. I thought she was like, Cleveland rocks. I thought it was that kind of rocks. We're flying at billions of kilometers an hour. So even traveling through a vacuum of space, it's like we're cutting through wind. See, I talked about the whole space landing and stuff, but that's when you're like in motion, not just standing there. There's even places born stormy and serene, like sailing a sea of water. I really love the intricate design, all of the TV monitors, all the computer monitors that are in this workroom, in the workstation. I think that's so cool. It feels so futuristic and yet so kind of dated at the same time. Again, all the extravagant details. But we really talk about warping and what we do during the warp speed. When we enter the subspace, that moment's incredible. I've only seen the ether plasmatized once. Otherwise, we're told to stand by in our quarters. Something that was really interesting is that by the end of it, there is that similarity juxtaposed between men and women in that last frame because you have all the girls huddled together doing the ghost stories at the beginning of this episode. And then when Noriko goes to verify Smith's death, she opens it up and all the men there are in mourning, which is really good. I appreciate seeing the shot of these men being vulnerable and mourning the loss of their friend Smith. Like, oftentimes we present kind of a toxic masculinity in media, and to see, like, no, these guys are no different than you. Like, they're still suffering all the same. I thought that was pretty incredible. I liked that a lot. So Jung is telling ghost stories to everybody there. And of course, Noriko gets easily scared. Bless her heart. And Amano is up reading her books, probably on physics, not participating in the truth or dare or anything like that. So she ends up getting booted out to go and tie her headband around the ladder. And the guys are doing exactly the same. I like her jog suit with a little paw print on it. That was super cute. So there's also a lot of Evangelion-esque, just like robot designs with the brains and everything. I'm waiting for things to get crazy, and I have a feeling they're going to by the end of this. But she goes up there, and that's when she runs into Dolph Lundgren, a.k.a. Smith Toren. Smith had a really cool look. He had a really cool look, and at first I gave him a hard time, but then I really got to like him, especially out in space during that mission. It was really good. And then he has to go and effing die, and I'm like, why? Why did we do that, show? We were doing so well. But he got sent on a dare as well. And he's such a flirt. I like he has the white hair with the one streak of blonde coming out from it. He ends up being like, kind of like he has a Lev vibe from Haikyuu. He ends up being like a little flirt, but a really nice guy. And I was like, damn, you're a literal red shirt in this episode. Oh my God. But yeah. He ends up doing the same thing. He's like, it's funny that the girls do this stuff as well. He's like, put your marker up quick and then just head back. Like, he is really supportive at the time. He just kind of, like, gives her a hard time. And tries to, like, that's, like, his flirting is giving her a hard time. But at first she kind of shuns it. But then it turns out he's a nice guy. And then the coach is like, you're not getting out of this. You're going to stick with me since you guys decide to, like, hang out. So he basically punishes them by sending them to clean the lenses off of all the robots that are there as punishment for leaving the brig, leaving your quarters when you're not supposed to. And Noriko, I just love her. She's so sunny. She has such a sunshine disposition. She's like, look at the stars. They form flowers. And he's like, get back to scrubbing. Like, she's just the most, like, heartfelt, wonderful person. And I worry that this whole gunbuster business is gonna... She's kind of the anti-Shinji from Neon Genesis. She's kind of the anti-Shinji, but she finds herself kind of in similar waters. It's the weirdest thing. But yeah. And so, I want to call him Dolph Lundgren from Rocky IV, but Smith talks about how there's a lot of dying stars around here, which we find out that when a star dies, first it just expands immensely and becomes this giant supernova, and then that's before it, like, implodes. So what Smith is kind of getting around at is that we have a lot of suns that are dying, but at the same time, it is very possible that the reason for that could be connected to the space monsters, and that they're using the suns as incubators for their spawn, which is terrifying, by the way. Also, the thing that came out of the sun at the end looked like a spaceship that turned into an animal. Not having it, not at all. But yeah, they have some fun banter back and forth, and I like that when she calls him a robot, he says that his back hurts, proving that he is, in fact, not a robot. I thought they had good chemistry. It took them a little second to open up to each other, but I thought that they actually were really fun. And, you know, getting your first dose of love on the job, and then it goes horribly wrong. So, they're like, at present speed, we can expect to see the star Leaf 64 today. Okay. He's like, Leaf 64, that takes me back. I was a navigation officer at that time. A star much like our own. Okay. Except it's not like your own, because then it becomes, you know, a supernova and, like, the breeding ground for the space monsters. Stars as young as ours are quite rare, and it helps when they aren't being sheared by gravity. Okay. So then they explain light speed, which is really, really cool. And the fact that they, like, encounter this object and everything, And I'm surprised they didn't do anything to Smith. That's good to know. But yeah, they changed course and they're like, we're going to do a gravity turn and go check out and see what it is. Okay. And in 22 hours, they're going to show up there. All right. So, Noriko, to be fair for her, she's trying to catch up where they left off at since they missed so much from being gone to investigate the ship. And she's trying to catch up. To be fair to her, this looks wild. This looks insane. And I don't know how anyone would do it. I really don't. Because it's just so much to memorize. And I think it's important that we establish that, you know, Amano wrote a world-class physics paper in high school. Norio's struggling with the machines operation manual. So there's a big difference there. And I'm like, ooh, buddy. Like, she's having a hard time. And that's when Smith comes back and kind of flirts with her. And he's a loner, so he doesn't have a partner. Right? Which, I don't know why he doesn't have a partner, because he literally was giving, like, some of the best advice and being calm as a cucumber while he was in the middle of the battle with her. So, I don't know. Also, we'll talk about it when we get closer, but the way they handled the death scene was unsettling and really good. Who knows? Maybe he's disappeared like the dad. Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, Noriko's like, well, my sister and I are the best top squadron. And so she leads off. And I like that she, like, gives him a hard time when she leaves. And it's like, I don't need your help. I like, she kind of like gets at him. That's really cute. And then, of course, Smith's like, so you don't need my help, huh? He was a good guy. I really liked him. He kind of threw me off at first, but then I really got to like him. And I was like, no, he seems like a great guy, but given the telltale signs. So at this point, we were 11 minutes into the episode. And I thought, other than that one opening scene with Kimiko, we haven't really had any nudity or anything. Feels like we're finally getting back around. Then we have the locker room scene, but luckily we don't get any, like, direct nudity. It's literally just the girls getting ready. Did you hear Psycho and her boyfriend got past third base yesterday? Well, isn't that a home run? What did those two? They said she hit her head on the bed. Oh my God. So now we've gone from talking about our boobs hurting, like, because of the gravity to, like, which girls are having sex. I mean, again, I could see those conversations happening in the locker room. Meanwhile, Jung and Amano are getting ready. And she's like, look, check Noriko out. And Noriko's reading her book, trying to get ready. And she's just a hot mess. Girl is just a hot mess, not knowing what to do. And Amano, I love the face that Jung makes, like, isn't that embarrassing? And Amano's like, shit, you know, you're probably going to get me killed out there. Which, not wrong! So, I don't blame Amano for being worried and not wanting her to go out there. I don't blame Amano at all. Because if she thought that Noriko was going to get injured or killed, I could see why she's like, nope, I'm not going to go. And if her being partnered with me means she goes, then I'm going to say hell no. And that we're just not going to do that. So I don't blame her at all for saying that she didn't want to do it. But yeah, we see Leaf 64 and it's now become a red giant. And you can see, it almost looks like the monsters are swarming in a ring around the sun. Like, and that's what they're doing. Yeah, how could it change that much in mere decades? So there is a question of, does the alien contact and them using the sun as an incubator, does that speed up the process of it turning into a red giant? I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, they decide to get all of the robots ready to go. And Amano speaks with the coach. And doing it while Noriko's getting ready. I wonder if the coach knew that Noriko was there watching and listening. I wonder if he knew that ahead of time. And he just let it happen. I don't know. But she's like, oh, big sis. She says she's not ready and it's too dangerous. You have to understand that as her partner, I say we cannot fight yet. And Oda's like, no, she's fighting. End of story. I have my reasons. I do get a little bit worried that my fear is that he's wanting Noriko to fight because he believes that the conditions that he saw her father fight in could be replicated. My fear is that he doesn't care about her well-being and he's literally like Ishmael chasing after the white whale and doesn't care who he takes down along the way as long as he finds the means in which to find it. That's what I'm worried about, because he kind of gives off those vibes sometimes, especially with how blunt he is, but I guess we'll figure out if that's going to be a thing or not. But yeah, she's like, we're no longer going to be a pair if that's going to be the case. I cannot fight if Noriko is my partner. And of course, Noriko hears it, and I like that Amano does stand her ground, and she's like, no, I'm not fighting with you because you're not ready. Meanwhile, the coach is like, I made you and Amano a team because I knew you would be stronger together. You need another, so it's all pointless unless you're a team. Again, I feel like, I don't know if the coach is banking on her partner dying, and that's going to like spur her on or whatever, or unlock some trigger that's going to let her power the Gunbuster. I don't know. Believe in yourself and strive to be better and show her what you've got. So then we have our dear sweet Smith that is sitting there by the vending machine and her sitting beside him. I really love the vending machine scene. I like the scene a lot. I like that he's kind of just like, he puts the book down. He's like, he genuinely looks concerned at her, which is really cool. And she apologizes. And she's like, I guess I'm solo now. Big sis has run out of patience with me. But it's only natural. She was out of my league to begin with. I really love Smith being like, well, you could partner with me. Like that. What a sweetheart, right? He's such a sweet guy. And he's like, I'm on my own, so we could just pair up. He kind of has a Vash vibe to him, too. And he gives her the little coffee drink. And it is like an indirect kiss. My name is Smith Toren. I love she recognizes the indirect kiss. That's great. So yeah, then we have our space battle, which is just like all the logistics and everything. Again, reminding me of Neon Genesis. Every team is on their own once they're out there. Californium warheads have a half-life of 2 or 3 hours. Use them before that and then return. And you're all ordered to make it back. This is the first operation in history to use machine weapons. There's exercise extreme caution. Okay. So she was fighting that whole time against those aliens with a nuke on her back? What? Which, honestly, the aliens ignored her, which is bizarre to me. They straight up ignored her. I don't understand. They caused destruction to so many other robots, but she just stood there and they didn't do anything, which is wild. So yeah, they sent them all out. And first the two girls go out, and then we see Smith go out, and then she goes out as well. I like that she has the lance. I don't know in terms of defense what that lance was going to do, because he told her to be on defense, but I'm like, what was she supposed to do? Okay. The enemy contacts at 2:20. And I love these, like, I'm right below you. Okay. Calm down, it's okay, the enemy hasn't reached us yet. Which, again, I absolutely love that this ties back to episode 1 or 2, where he was saying, like, there is a dimension of space that throws off your orientation and you won't be used as space. Because she felt isolated. She felt like she was in the middle of nowhere. And all it really was the fact that that was just the space. She couldn't see her partner. She couldn't see anything. She got disoriented. Yep. The enemy's small organic weapons are headed for the Tardion near 120. So small organic weapons. Okay. And then there's a static boom and says it's going badly. And then he says the Tardion got hit. There'll be a shockwave in 5 seconds. I love that we get to see this from Noriko's view, because Noriko, the claustrophobia of being in that suit in the shell, the claustrophobia of it, the fact that you don't know what's going on, that you're relying on somebody else to tell you, that there's a shockwave, that you're expected to do all these things, and she just freezes in the moment and can't do anything. And the whole time, what killed me was that Smith, he was talking to her and being so supportive the entire time. He's like, calm down, it's all right. It's not going to kill you. And then it says, contact the upper port side. There's 2 of them coming. Okay. And then we see 2 of them just fly by. And he says they went around to the left. Damn it. Another one for the upper port side. Okay. And it says one is going left, take him. So she goes to move left, but then to see who it is and what exactly it is, but then they end up going past her. Again. Uh-huh. And then this other thing flies past her as well. She can't do anything. And she just sits there freaking out. But yeah, nothing happens. They end up coming towards her, and they even fly below her, which I'm assuming maybe that's when he was taken out. Maybe. But then she doesn't get hit. And she says, this is the flagship Excellion. A squad, come in. This is the flagship, come in. She asks for Smith. Okay. And she doesn't see him anymore. Or hear him. That was terrifying. I think the fact of the matter that it just went silent. I said that earlier. I think the part about the death sequence that really got me was that there was no scream. There was no scream. There was no fizzling out. There was no, oh shit, or like anything like that. It just happened. And that was it. And then he was gone. But they don't find his robot. They don't find his body. So I'm like, is it a no body, no death situation and he's been turned into a space monster or somewhere else in another dimension? Who knows? Who knows? But he just disappears. And he could have just died. But the way that it was handled was so unique and so well done. I was floored. So yeah, it's wild. But she can't sense him anywhere. The enemy is at Leaf, and it appears they're amassing at Leaf 64, surrounding it. And he's like, we need to dispatch all the ships. We need to get them in before they lay their eggs in the stars and use them as incubators. We need to get out of here before they hatch. To get clear of this region as soon as we can. Okay. So yeah, then we see the Tardion, and it's just wrecked. Like, completely destroyed. We don't get to see the ship that he was in. We don't see them at all. As she moves her way back to the Excellion. But that's it. Then we see, okay, we do see a battleship there that's beside, there's like a pink robot kneeling down with it, and the battleship like has these bullet holes in it and everything, and like it's been stripped, and there's blood dripping from the neck part of it, so that's like hinted that maybe that's happened. And then they all just get back in line, but Noriko doesn't know what to do because she can't find Smith. And they basically just, if he didn't die, they just left him out there. Oh, she's like, I didn't fire a single shot. And then they go back in light speed. The moment where she opens up the hatch to see the guys and looks in and they all look up and Smith isn't there and they all look so freaking sad is heartbreaking. She goes back to the vending machines, but their empty coffee thing is there. She goes back to the robots, but his is not there. And then she cries and goes in there to see why. What is it that the captain is looking at here? Is this the gunbuster? It looks very Evangelion. It does. It looks very Evangelion. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, so we see this robot here with the black star on it. And then her running to the Cochins crying, being like, Smith was right there, but I did nothing. I couldn't do anything. She's like, I'll do whatever it takes. So please show me how. I'm like, oh, girl, that's what he's been wanting you to say. Operation Red Shirt was successful. Oh, my God. But, yeah. So, I don't know what the coach's deal is, if he's recognized that she has been pretty useless so far in terms of space battling, but he seems to think that the gunbuster armor is going to be good for her. So I'm like, okay. This very much felt like Noriko throughout this entire episode. Now that I know it was Ano's work, I'm like, God, the Shinji vibes. They are there. They are there. She's just like the optimistic, sunny version of him. But yeah, her asking the coach to show her how and that she'll be better. I have to be good enough so that Big Sis accepts me. Ooh. That whole teach me vibe, that could go to somebody's head really quick. It could go to someone's head really quick. I don't know. But yeah. And then we see all of these like space monsters coming out of the sun from the eggs. Oh my God. That is terrifying. Terrifying. So, R.I.P. Smith. R.I.P. Smith. We got introduced to a badass character, and he died in the same episode. Oh my God, which we only have 6 episodes, so I get it. But again, this show weaved a very fully functional episode and the narrative. The idea of Noriko trying to play catch up as they face these space monsters. Which now we get a little bit more lore with that. We can understand that the space monsters are incubating at a rapid rate and they're reproducing at a rapid rate because of all of the giant red dying stars out there they're using as incubators. So with that being said, it only makes sense that we'd want to be a little bit more urgent in taking care of the space monsters, considering that they're multiplying at a rapid rate. But I can't believe Smith is gone. I can't believe she lost her true love. And then, of course, she turns to the captain. I wondered in that moment if the captain felt similar to himself with her dad and that this is like a full circle moment or what it is. But this was such a good episode. Oh, my God. Not as much dialogue and discussion to talk about as last week, but holy cow, what an amazing episode. R.I.P. Smith Toren. You were a real one. You were a G. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts down below about this episode. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, we're at the halfway point. Girl's lost her first love. Her dad doesn't know how to fly a robot. And there's space monsters reproducing. What could go wrong? So I'll be back very soon with episode 4 of Gunbuster. Bye.